Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with Nightwing and Huntress. Previously, a woman was killed in a hotel room rented out in the name of reputed gangster Frankie Black, who was soon arrested by police. However, since Nightwing spotted him in a different location at the time of the murder, the case is far from closed. He's joined by Helena Bertinelli, who just wants the mob taken down no matter what, and has a large bat-shaped chip on her shoulder, but that doesn't stop her from making out with her fellow vigilante. And in a wacky twist, that alleged prostitute was actually an undercover cop. Issue 2's cover is rather action-packed, with the title characters quarreling high above a crimson-colored Gotham. I've heard of painting the town red, but this is ridiculous. It is a cool visual, though, signifying a possible rift between the two, but whether that plays out in the story or not, well, let's just see. We open to a splash page of the murdered woman in the morgue. Lieutenant Ellison from Vice confirms this is his partner, Caitlin Becker. As to why she was dressed like a prostitute, in a hotel room registered to a suspected gunrunner, with no means of contact, backup, or ID, Ellison figures she was so obsessed with bringing down Black and the mob, she probably heard that he was at the Starlight and switched places with the intended girl, all without clearance. But as police procedural stereotypes go, she was never officially taken off the case. If she'd done this after getting into a fight with her boss and getting suspended, she might have lived to crack the case. Elsewhere, Nightwing answers Huntress's question from the previous issue, why he's letting her work the case with him. She's a good crime fighter and resource, and given her intent to get involved anyway, it's better for them to work together. Also, since you made out with me last issue, I figured investigating murders was a turn-on, and this is Gotham after all, so... Huntress wishes Batman thought more like him, but Grayson says he's really effective and doesn't want to hear any criticisms about the man. She apologizes, not intending to be critical, but her partner immediately refocuses on the investigation. Since the vigilantes agree the woman's death wasn't a mob hit, and with Frankie in police custody, their best bet is to question Pasquale, Frankie's sidekick. Now there's a word I never thought anyone trained by the Bat would use. You might be surprised what I know about sidekicking. Namely, that it actually involves a lot more punching than the title suggests. Nobody likes to work alone, right? And he swings off, with Bertinelli pausing, seeming much more somber despite agreeing verbally. In the apartment of Frankie's secret girlfriend, Moira McAllister, she's on the phone with, one assumes, a lawyer, saying she hasn't been able to see her beau since his arrest and insisting on his innocence. She's then visited by Serge Malfatti, so she has to cut her call short, with a little help from the old man hanging up for her so they can get better acquainted.
First of all, I don't like attorney, unless I've employed them myself. I feel the same way about policemen and judges.
You didn't see nothing.
I don't know why people are always bad-mouthing the Mafia.
He also doesn't like being left in the dark, nor the feeling that brings that his safety is in someone else's hands, as one of his goons, behind Moira, raises a gun to the back of her head. Fortunately, a gesture from the boss lowers the weapon.
Personally, I'd prefer to be the one calling the shots.
I was going to have a joke here about Malfatti laughing about something ironic she wouldn't get, but then I noticed that, given where they're standing, she's basically facing a mirror, so she may well have seen it. Though given how little her facial expression changes, if she did, she kept quite the poker face, so kudos to Moira on that. We go to Malfatti's restaurant, where its only patron, Pasquale, is drunkenly playing solitaire when Nightwing appears to give him a little hand. Then Huntress drops to the skylight. I assume to chastise them both that it's a single-person game, and getting assistance from someone ruins the spirit.
Back off, Nightwing. He's mine.
Pasquale's minor league, Huntress. I'll handle him.
Huh. It's like a superhero custody battle, which might involve actual battling. It doesn't take much to get the goon to sing, explaining that Frankie wasn't at the Starlight, but instead at the pier, bringing in a shipment for Russo, and Pasquale was the only one at the hotel. Huntress asks that means the lackey killed the woman and throws him against a table, which is a bit too aggressive for Wing's liking. When she kneels on top of him with her knuckles ready to meet his face and firing off questions, Grayson has to restrain her, getting an elbow to the gut for his troubles. In a progression that almost feels like teleporting, Nightwing has her against the wall, several feet away, in a mildly suggestive pose, and she says he'd better get used to how she operates if they're going to work together. though in the next panel she walks away, suggesting Pasquale tell her associate whatever he wants to know, or she'll be back.
I'm gonna go ahead and give you a pass because you have murder eyes.
Or worse, she'll leave a nasty Yelp review. Went to Malfatti's to interrogate a low-level thug, gave up information, but smelled like sweat and cheap bourbon. Breadsticks were too chewy. 1 star, might crime fight there again, but only out of spite. We briefly return to police interrogation, where Bullock gives Frankie some good news. The Starlight crime scene was cleaned up really well, so what they have on him is circumstantial. Aside from, again, his name at the register and those weapons at the pier they found with Russo's prints all over them. Bad news, as he introduces Ellison, is that the woman he's alleged to have killed was from Vice, and Black drops his head into his arms.
Anything you want to say besides oops, creep? Yeah, there is. Game of Thrones is overrated. There, I said it.
In an alley, Nightwing approaches Huntress, who's all energized about their good cape, bad cape routine, which was apparently totally improvised. She wants to know if the goon gave up any more information, but Wing suggests they might be better off working separately after all. A little hurt, she asks if this is because she isn't enough like his pointy-eared mentor, or is too much like him. He's about to swing off without answering, but she calls him a coward, and that sets the OG boy wonder off something good.
No! You don't get to judge me! You don't know anything about me!
Huntress does remind him of Batman, but what scares him is how she reminds him of Barbara, Jason, and Corey, people she doesn't know, but were headstrong and dove headfirst into every case much like she did. One left his life entirely, another was crippled, and the other died. This is the appropriate response when someone on the outside is giving Grayson flack for misgivings he has every right to have, given his experience. I wish we had this version when a less experienced, much worse character was lecturing him about how great she was. What a disgusting monstrosity of a piece of garbage that story was.
Thank you, God!
Though not having all the info, Huntress laments the price they paid, but says that what they do is like a religion, something they chose and lost, were freed by and tied to. Those people he mentioned are his saints and martyrs that he's not complete without, just like he's not complete without her. So it's ingrained in their blood. It's like family, which makes donating to the blood bank that much more complicated. I'm sorry, where you were supposed to mark your blood type, you wrote in justice? Malfatti is visiting Frankie in lockup to assure he's there for the young man, who's like a son to him. And the mob boss finally met Moira. He even has her staying at his home for safety, and doesn't know why Frankie kept her from the old man. Since he doesn't want to explain that, or anything, this is his second appearance in the issue and he hasn't said a word, maybe he'd rather discuss the more than 50 crates of Bang Bang Shooty Shoots at Pier 6.
Well, I'm like a son to you, right? So the deal was, a Father's Day gift. Better than some tie, right?
Perched on a decorative metal eagle's head, Wing is explaining what he got from Pasquale, while holding one of his gauntlets with his bare hand. That seems like a counterintuitive design for a crime fighter's gear if he has to take the whole thing off to use it. Anyway, Frankie's plan was to have Russo sell the guns without a cut to Malfatti, pass it off as an act of carelessness, and offer his resignation so he could get out of the Mafia and have a normal life with his girlfriend. Falling in love or not, Huntress insists that there is no getting out of the mob, and that you've got to stick with your own kind, because if you don't stick where you belong, it'll be disastrous. And to this day, Helena can't figure out why her series of romance novels never hit it big. In a locker room at GCPD, some officers compliment the rookie Mason with a nice dusting of exposition about him. I'm not kidding, we find out that he's been with the force for less than a month and comes from a small town, and it's done very well without feeling forced. They also mention that the dead woman was actually a vice cop working undercover, which shocks him so much that he runs out in a way that totally doesn't feel weird and shouldn't feel weird, honest. He makes a mad dash to the evidence room and starts frantically sifting through items when someone else makes themselves known.
Now this hardly looks like standard procedure.
With the reputation Gotham has, let alone Gotham Police, are you really sure it's not? It's the Huntress, and Mason pleads for help to make Frankie take the fall for the murder at the Starlight. She asks why it matters to him, and he says that it's his collar, and if he's freed, Black may target the cop for arresting him. Helena seems amicable, asking what his plan is when we go to Frankie, finally getting some lines and explaining himself, but choosing his words very carefully because of the nearby cop. Malfatti seems satisfied that things make sense, and Frankie asks what he should do.
You? A duck. You seagull, what's going on?
A shotgun rings out from one of the guards on Frankie's side, breaking the glass while Malfatti's goon shoots another cop, and Black nervously makes his way through the shattered barrier. Back at the Spire of Eagleheads, the two stars of the book meet up again. Nightwing says he found a close associate of Malfatti's working in the GCPD's holding tank and doesn't think Frankie is safe. The wording is kind of weird as it implies he physically found the guy, and as we just saw, a cop was in on the escape, so I wonder if he means that he found out that Malfatti had someone on the inside. Anyway, Huntress reveals the dead woman was an undercover cop, and she's complimented for her good work.
Huntress, can I ask you something?
You may.
I may? What are you, a teacher or something?
I have to be a teacher to stop you from talking like you were born in a circus tent?
Or maybe you're psychic.
Okay, I'm a little torn here. Part of me wants to point out that for someone trained by Batman, that felt like a kind of sloppy reveal. On the other hand, it is kind of a cute exchange of dialogue between the two. Not sure what to do here. Oh, wait, of course I do. The simplest answers are sometimes the funnest ones. He asks if she wants to reveal her name, and Helena figured he already knew, or could find out if he cared. Wing's been thinking about what she said earlier about their work and sticking together, and while he's been going at it solo for a while, and is good at it, sometimes I'm just so
lonely?
And the issue ends on them making out. And lo, they became the high priest and high priestess of the First Church of Vigilantism. The confused dialogue salad between characters that we saw in issue 1 is no longer present, which is good, and while Grayson seemed keen to give Huntress a shot, despite Batman's misgivings, he rethinks the notion, but for totally different reasons. This moment was a good reminder of how he's watched people close to him either suffer or die because of the vigilante life, though considering Babs was crippled because Joker came visiting her dad's place and not because of recklessness, it makes one wonder if using her in this comparison is really applicable. Unless he's counting not checking the door's peephole or asking who's there while adding your arm to the teeth. Again, it's Gotham.
Hey, who are you guys?
We are caterers.
There's also a bit of subtle development with this mystery. Mason is reacting in a suspicious way, and you may already be able to assume why, to a point. It clues you into more of the case, but perhaps not giving everything away just yet. If you look closely at his locker, you can see his first name is Cliff, and he's from Springfield.
Let's get out of here! Ah!
Tune in next week to see if our masked crime fighters get any closer to solving this case, or if they're still too busy Frenching. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.